Welcome back, everybody. Have another special guest, GoBundance member. If you don't know much about GoBundance, check it out, gobundance.com. And I don't want to butcher his last name, Wally Elibiary.
Very good.
All right, all right.
You
Because
hit the nail on the head there. But yeah,
most people butcher my last name too, Anzalone. They say Anzalone, so I get that. But the reason why I reached out to Wally is about his new book because I've been teaching a lot and focused a lot on mindset. And when I saw his book, read what it's about, learned more about him, I was like, I got to reach out. I got to get this guy on the show. So thanks for joining us.
you bet. Definitely a big fan. And I think when you reached out, I watched a few of your YouTube videos yourself. So you're an icon and really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. So for people that don't know who Wally is, tell us. And I know you're in the mortgage business, but you are teaching entrepreneurs about a bunch of different things. But tell us a little bit how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I got in mortgage business when I was 19 years old, so 24 years ago, and worked my way out from a loan officer to building a branch and then building a business. And today I own a mortgage brokerage. So it's no different than most people that have jobs or if they're physicians or whatever the industry is. But the biggest thing that I started doing, focusing on wealth, is I had a wake up call in 2013, and that wake up call, unfortunately, is probably some of my least proudest moments when I was won like the Lifetime Achievement Award in mortgage, got entered in the Mortgage Hall of Fame, and we're going on a family vacation that following week. So I go from thousands of people in the audience praising me publicly and all this fun stuff, and then all the way to going on a family vacation with my two sons and my wife. And my youngest son, which is 5, Alexander, and Alex stops me in the hallway. He sees me with my suitcase going to Disneyland with him, and Alex says, "Oh, Dad, you're coming with us." Here's my 5-year-old that was shocked that I was going on a family vacation. I was so married to my business. I missed more dinners than I ever made. I missed more sporting events than I ever made. So I was a very in Texas we would have called me all hat, no cattle. And on the front cover of all of this, but behind the scenes, I was an absent father and I was an absent husband. So 2013, I started reading a book a week, and I started reaching out to the authors of each one of those books. And if you see the screen behind you, it says learn. The more you learn, the more you earn. And the mindset behind that every single day when I came in, it's when I read a book, I've learned how to read a book to really be able to focus on implementation. And when you read a book, I've read a book a week for 11 years. And when I read a book, I'm dyslexic, I'm ADHD, and I have dysgraphia. So I've kind of learned my concoction of a learning style is when I read a book, I listen to the audiobook and I follow along with my finger of what the book's reading. And then from there, I've got a journal next to me. I write asterisks for ahas or things that I was kind of taken away from the book. And I have like open boxes, like squares that of items I want to implement. Once I've completely finished that book, I go through that journal and I grab 3 highlighters: a red, a yellow, and a green highlighter. Green is for what I want to implement next 30 days. Yellow is what I want to implement next 60 days, and red is what I want to implement over the next 90 days. I'll put that together in a presentation, then I'll reach out to the author and say, "Hey, Mr. Author, this is what I've read in your book. Here is the what I want to implement. Here are the stages that I want to implement. I'd love to jump on a 30-minute or an hour Zoom with you or a call to can you help me implement this, bring this to life?" I think gained a lot of respect from a lot of authors and from the people like the Dave Osbornes or the Hal Elrods or the Michael Mayers and all these like really big influential authors out there. They became mentors over time. To the point where like John Maxwell coached me for years. Brian Buffini coached me for years. Robert Kiyosaki and I, we met at a GoBundance event. So the mindset behind it is as you're reading and you're learning, and that's kind of the foundation that I've been able to build. So I went from this absent father, this absent husband, to now we take 20 weeks of vacation a year. And I've taken 20 weeks of vacation a year for the last, golly, I'd probably say the last 9 years or so, eight,
Wow.
9 years. And, it's 10 weeks of the year, family vacations, 5 weeks a year with my wife, just her and I, and then 5 weeks a year, usually golfing with Osborne or whoever. The mindset behind it is that, you know, I came from a dark spot of a lot of shame of not feeling that I was worthy to be a father or a husband to the point now where I'm really proud. I'm really proud, not necessarily of my accomplishments, but of the 16 and 18-year-old that I have at home. And I'm really proud of my marriage of 19 years, simply because I did all that while making multi-millions a year now in mortgage. I've done all that while now I own six other businesses. I've done all that where now I own 487 rental doors throughout Texas. I've been able to build a really big business world while also being a present father and a present husband, which is what my book is about, 24/7 mindset. And it's how do you build a business that pays you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like we all want to get paid while we're sleeping. However, you only have to work in it 24 hours a week, 7 months a year. So in my businesses, I'm only involved in all of them combined 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, because I take 20 weeks of vacation off a year. Did I explain that well?
Now, I hope everybody watching this realize why I reached out to this guy. That is just amazing. There's so much to unpack there. I have a 16 and an 18-year-old as well.
Yeah.
One of the one of the cool things that I like to do is when they have their friends over, talk to them about this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, because as you know, they don't get that in school, right? So how are you? There's a lot of things I want to talk about. We're talking about kids. How are you now, or how have you been sort of getting introducing them to what you do as far as entrepreneurship to get them interested?
Yeah, it's not, having teenage boys, as you know, the majority of them are financially motivated. And my it started with Braden. So I call him Braden the Brave and Alexander the Great. That's Braden and Alex. And Braden was 12 years old. He had saved up like $200, and I was buying rentals back then. And he comes to me and says, "Hey, Dad, can I buy in with you?" This is a 12-year-old asking if he can invest with me. And I said, I really want you to get to at least 10% of the down payment so you can own 10% of the duplex. So he goes door knocking the neighborhood and, "Hey, I'll pick up your trash for $5. I'll take your dogs around a walk park for, $5." And he raises like another $400 over the summer. So he had saved up enough money for 10% of the down payment. And so about 12 years old, he's owned 10% of rental property, so he gets 10% of residual income monthly. Well, now their residual income, now each one of them has a six-figure net worth from the real estate that they've invested in me with. But more importantly, they're making residual income monthly. But for them to receive their residual income, they've got to be able to run the P&Ls, the balance statements, the rent rolls of their investments. They're 16 and 18. My biggest focus in all this is that, God willing, I'm going to leave my kids a lot of money at some point, but a lot of that's going to be in real estate. I don't want to see them get taken advantage of. So what would be the point of leaving them a lot of wealth, but they don't know how to manage the wealth, and somebody comes along while I'm dead and just takes advantage of them? So the mindset behind it is they understand financials enough to where they're in the early stages, as you know, the 16 to 18-year-old. There's a lot of maturing left to do, but they're in the early stages of being able to understand how to run a balance sheet and a P&L.
I guess the proverb, "Too much is given, much is required," right?
Correct.
So, what have they been doing as far as job wise to get those down payments now?
Um, my oldest son is a high school golfer, so he caddies and gives golf lessons. So he
Okay,
usually makes somewhere in the neighborhood of another like 300-400 bucks a month from that.
okay.
And then so then he's socking that away. Plus also he's got his residual income. I've got a rule in my household for them is that you can blow 20% of what your income is on a month, but you got to save 80%. Now, as they get older, will I lax out a little bit on that? Yeah, absolutely. But while they're still teenagers, I kind of control their money.
So, let's go back to the books. Are you still doing that process, reading the books and reaching out to the authors too?
Yeah, yeah. To me, the way the it's just what's made me successful over the years is implementing what I read. Most people just simply read for the sake of knowledge, and where my mind kind of, like I said, I've got those disabilities, so dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD. But with the blessing about all that, I've got a phenomenal imagination. And the imagination allows me to be able to take something super difficult. But if I understand it deeply enough, I can break it down in bits and pieces and I can rebuild it in a way that I'm able to actually digest it. So the mindset behind it is if I've been successful reading books that way and implementing from reading books that way, there's no reason for me to change.
So you said back then your Alexander was 5 and he was like, "Dad, are you going with us on the vacation?"
Yeah.
Then that's when you started the process of reading those books. So what what was it about reading the books that really showed you how to free up your time to take more vacations and all that? Was there like one or two specific books or um, nuggets of knowledge that helped you do that?
Yeah, the book Traction really helped me a ton of really understanding systems and having more of an engineer mindset for the sake of models. The book Rocket Fuel, which is the same author as Traction, just really put me on the map of understanding how to create leverage around what I was wanting to be able to accomplish. In my book, I talk about there's three types of leverage: systems leverage, human leverage, technology leverage. And if you can maximize on those three leverages, you can build everything and anything you can ever imagine. So I needed to learn the human leverage of how to, for me to be the visionary and for me to recruit the integrators. So now in my world, there's 9 integrators that run my world, and I'm just the one visionary that they all report to, or they get their ideas from, or they get their imagination from. Then there's another one by Gary Keller. He owns Keller Williams, called The One Thing, and it really helped me focus. There's a great book. He wrote a great book and the book summarized the whole book in one quote of his. It is, what is the one thing such by doing it makes everything else easy or unnecessary? What is the one thing such by doing it makes everything else easy or unnecessary? So that really helped me sharpen my focus. Instead of being an entrepreneur, it's more of a shotgun. It really helped me be a laser, and a laser is extremely powerful when it's focused.
So if somebody is watching this or listening to this as in W-2, whether they're an employee or self-employed, engineer, physician, dentist, pharmacist, plumber, whatever, what would you tell that person? That all they're doing is trading time for money. They're focused mainly, they have one stream of income, like I had. My wake up call was I hurt my wrist snow skiing.
Yeah.
And I realized when my kids, I think were 10 and 8 at that time, if I can't use my hands, I can't provide. And that's what started getting me interested in replacing my income with other streams that didn't involve me.
Yeah.
So what for somebody out there that's like that, that's relying on one income, that wants some more freedom, that wants to be able to expand, maybe they want to be an entrepreneur. I guess some of the things in your book addresses that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so obviously, I think you sure you've heard of Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks about the cash flow quadrants, and it's just the mindset of in his obviously his cash flow quadrants go from employee to self-employed to business up to or business owner to self-employed, and I broke that down in the mortgage space also. In the mortgage space, where my same business I've had for 24 years, the main business is has the ability to be able to be laser focused on you've got to wear so many hats, and I'm sure physicians are following the same category. But once you understand, there's a reason why there's a receptionist, there's a reason why there's a nurse. All of their roles come into play so the doctor can do what the doctor needs to do. And the mortgage was no different. So once I understood, I broke it down to four different quadrants. And the first one was the employee, which is rookie of the year. And I looked at that as like, hey, in my 20s, I focused on being rookie of the year. In my 30s was the next quadrant, and I focused on being the star quarterback. Well, the star quarterback, you've got to grow your leadership because you're leading a team. But in my 40s, I learned how to be able to scale. By scaling, I meant so Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. How do you break into on the business owner and the self-employed side? Well, you've got to break through the limitation wall. It has to go from the star quarterback to the head coach and then the owner. Well, what needs to happen? You've got to have three sets of lenses to be able to look through. I do it, we do it, they do it. If you can look through those lenses, what is it that I need to do? What is it that we need to do together? And what is that they need to do? Then now you're able to protect your time. So you can go from one level to the next level of success if you just focus on those three lenses you've got to look through, which is in my book. I do it, we do it, they do it. And as you focus on those three lenses, again, there's three types of leverage: technology leverage, systems leverage, and then human leverage, which all you put those two together, it's a great recipe.
Speaking of technology, are you using, and you said you had 8 or 9 businesses, how are you leveraging, like, technology? Are you doing any type of AI, leveraging that, or how are you doing leveraging some of
There's a lot of automation. There's a lot of automation in the mortgage space. There's a little bit of AI in the academy, and also one of the companies is a social media marketing company that kind of focuses on mortgage, real estate, social media marketing type, digital marketing type, and that's got an AI component in it, especially for like lead generation. But the biggest thing is the if this then that mindset. So if I click one button, how does that one button produce three other steps that save me time? So if you look at it that way, hey, how do I do one step that equates to three results? And you can use that through automation.
Gotcha. With, you said you had 9 other businesses total, or?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody is just has that one main business, whether they're self-employed or they're an employee, and they maybe want to start another business or be involved, what are some of the steps that maybe they should think about or take in order to do that?
There's a great book by I think it's Jack Reese and positioning and niching. And what you've got to figure out is how do you position yourself in the marketplace and how do you create a niche for yourself in the marketplace? If you can answer that question, that's 80% of the battle. I position myself as, for my field being the mortgage space, the
Hmm.
mortgage loan officers go to a realtor and ask for referrals. Okay, so how can I reframe myself in the realtor's eyes that I become more valuable than them in the equation? Well, I went out there and I got trained up and I was paying $5,000 a month for coaching for 2.5 years of how to be the best realtor, the best mega agent realtor possible in the business. I was never planning on being a realtor, but I needed to learn who my avatar of people I'm going after. Well, long story short, my business doubled from 2014 of closing $45 million in loans to the next year is over $100 million in loans So I went from making almost $1 million in income to $2 million in income because I was able to go after bigger producing agents, bigger producing partners. But I needed to be able to understand their language, understand their business, and help them actually grow and excel. So that's a niche that I built because I went and got my coaching certification as a loan officer to be able to coach realtors. So once I got that certification, it became my niche. Then I positioned myself in the market as the go-to, where I was like the realtor whisperer of being able to help them grow their business. But I didn't charge for it. All I wanted in return is you refer me all your clients, which has worked out pretty well financially.
So what you're saying, maybe depending on where where people are, their main job, they should find niches within that, what they know best, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you can figure out what's the best niche for you in your market, that you can become number one or number two in the top position in that niche, and start small, but you just got to get started. Once you become that top number one, number two, and you keep growing that, it's exactly what I did in mortgage. Mortgage transpired, led me into title company, that transpired into the real estate social media company, that transpired into the insurance company, that transpired into the tax disputer company, that transpired into the family will attorney company, that transpired into the insurance company. And it compounds on each other because each business feeds the other business, and this business refers business to the title company refers business to the insurance company, and it becomes like an ecosystem of companies. Well, I'm the house in the equation.
I just had a call, a coaching call. I'm coaching an endodontist, a root canal specialist, and him and his partner, they have two practices. And one of the things that I was teaching him to think about, because he has a 2.5-year-old, and then he has one on the way. It's kind of what you just talked about. And I was asking him about like the hub and spoke model, which is kind of what you were talking about. So what I've been seeing now, some of these dental specialists, they get referrals from dentists.
Yep.
Okay. So what a lot of these dental specialists are doing, I just kind of put the idea out there to him, was buying up general dentist practices that are for sale, or they're older dentists and they want to phase out, getting a new dentist in those offices. So now not only do they own all the offices, well, all the offices will refer back to them in a nutshell. So
Yep.
that's kind of sounds like how your business model is set up, correct?
Yeah, it is for sure because I built a great mortgage business, but if the mortgage business feeds a lot of other businesses. So why on God's green earth would I be feeding these other businesses if I don't make an income or residual income or have ownership in the opportunity?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to be of value to be able to um, to be able to. I had to build the mortgage business before I could ever look at, hey, how can I build other businesses? And once I built the mortgage business, I controlled the referral streams. Once I controlled the referral streams, every other business was much easier to build. Remember from the one thing, what is the one thing such by doing it makes everything else easy or unnecessary? Me building mortgage to that level made all these other companies easy for me to be able to build.
Yeah, that's a good. I wish I'd have had that mindset when I started off as well, practicing. But you mentioned several times about you being coached, and
Yeah.
you've had a coach, and maybe you're being coached now. Um, how important is that? Number one, and number two, how would somebody go about figuring out if they need coaching or not?
If anybody ever says, and I really don't mean to offend anyone, but if anybody ever says that they don't need coaching, they really need to check their ego. Um, but coaching to me is as important as like breathing. The reason I say that is if I don't get coached, I'm always going to do the best I can do. If I can get coached, then I'm going to learn to do it the best way it can be done. And that's the differentiator working smart versus working hard. And actually, I learned that in coaching, but a coach of mine was just kept on saying, hey, you got to learn how to work smarter, not harder. And he caught me on a bad day once. And I snapped off back to him and I said, dude, if I knew how to work smarter, I'd work smarter. And that's what he said back to me. He said, you've got to learn to stop doing the best you can do and start doing it the best way it can be done. Once you have that mindset shift that books can teach you the best way it can be done, coaches can teach you the best way it can be done, mentors can teach you the best way it can be done. You just learn that you'll evolve to being a sponge, and you'll evolve in being to the person that wants to learn from here, learn from here, learn from here. And I try to be three types of people. I try to be the mentor that coaches others, the mentor mentee that stays around people that they are equal to, and also the mentee that looks for mentors. If you're the best leaders are the best followers.
Excellent. So what would you say the top 2 or 3 highlights of your book, like that really stand out? Because you basically said Gary Keller's one thing, you could basically sum it up in one sentence. So if you were to read through your book, what are some of the main highlights you would think would be in it?
Um, I talk about smarter, smartest goals
Hmm.
and how to actually position yourself that way. Next thing would be the 4 quadrants of how to build the mortgage business or real estate business or an orthodontist business, whatever it is, and the person you've got to become in each one of those. You know, I'd say those are the 2 main ones, but the biggest one of the first chapters talks about my decision in 2013, which was it was unacceptable. It was unacceptable for me to miss dinner with my family. It was unacceptable for me to be an absent father or an absent husband. And that became my word. That became my theme. This stopped being acceptable for me to chase money and sacrifice my family for the choice of providing for my family and not saving those relationships. So that decision, I'd probably say, is the number one most important thing. And until you can make that decision,
Hmm.
you'll just sell yourself on whatever lies you want to believe of why you're justifying being an absent spouse or an absent leader for your family.
I've got about 2,300 members in my passive investing group, and we typically will have a phone call just kind of find out what they're kind of wanting to do or what they want. And what I found was most people don't know what they want. They're asking like all these questions about how does depreciation work or what asset class should you get into, and then I'm always like, well, yeah, I mean, you're kind of like all over the place, and it's like you don't even know what you want. What are you trying to get? They don't have any goals. So with that being said, if somebody doesn't really know what they want, how far out would you recommend them maybe go? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or what are your thoughts on kind of just goal setting in general?
Yeah, I think people highly overestimate what they can do in a year. They
Mhm.
overestimate what they can do in a year, and then they underestimate what they can do in 5 years.
Okay.
So when I work on goals, I work on a 1 year goal, a 3 year goal, and a 5 year. The 5 year goal is where I want to go. And even though I might think it might take me 3 years to get there, and if I really ever fire in all cylinders, I can get there in 3 years. But you want to give yourself room to make mistakes. You want to give yourself room to grow. So I'm guaranteed to get there in 5 years. If I get there in 3 years, great. But it's a great thing to begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey's got a great book. I'm sure you've read it, Seven Habits of Highly Successful People.
Mhm.
And my favorite one is begin with the end in mind. So where do I want to be 5 years from now? So for me to be on track to be there 5 years from now, where do I need to be 3 years from now to be able to be on track to the 5 year goal? Where do I need to be in a year to be able to be on track for the 3 year goal? And where do I need to be in a month to be able to be on track for the yearly goal? Then you just space it out from there. So the mindset I want you to have is like, if you give yourself ample time, you'll exceed your expectations. You'll exceed your goals. You give yourself a short amount of time, and you think, hey, you're going to do this perfectly, do this perfectly, do this perfectly. That's just not how business works. There is no like stair step up the business. It's ups, downs, ups, downs, 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 ups, ups, downs, downs.
Hmm.
So it's just you've got to keep that in mind, and you've got to give yourself time to make mistakes.
Yeah, many times I don't know why they pick the number, but people will come to me and go, I want, within 5 years, I'd like to have $100,000 of passive income coming in. So I don't know why they picked that number, but that seems like to be a pretty average number. And kind of listen to what they're talking about and looking at their income, I think that they could do a whole lot more. But after talking to them a while, they're just kind of all over the place. So what you're saying, somebody like that, if that's the 5 year goal, then you back it up 3 year goal, then 1 year goal. Well, then maybe the 1 month goal would be we kind of figure out how much money start putting away each month and just breaking it down like that. Is that kind of what you're talking about, the mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you'll be able to self-discover is are you undershooting your goal or are you overshooting your goal when you break it down to the 3 year, the 1 year, and the 1 month? Because if you can break it down that way, then you can be able to track your results. There's no point of making a goal, not tracking it, and then just figuring out if you hit your goal or not. There's a every entrepreneur tracks there are different KPIs and different metrics that they want to
Mhm.
hit. And if you can't track it, then you can't keep it accountable.
Yeah, it's really funny you say that because for years and years I've kind of been at the same weight. And I could go do sprints, work out, I could go do stadiums, whatever. And it was just like it always stayed the same. And then
Yeah.
like about 3 months ago, I really started tracking my macros. There's a free app, and it was just like within a month, I'm seeing results, and then within 3 months, it's like it's just crazy, just how I spent all that time wasted, and it could have just been tracking it every day. Is this a daily
Well,
process?
I look at success like a safe, meaning that there's a combination to that safe. You can keep trying different combinations. That's doing the best you can do, or you can learn the best way it can be done and unlock that safe. You just learn the best way it can be done for the sake of your nutrition, your macros, your micros, and then now you're able to actually have the results. You're able to unlock and open that safe that produces the success that you want.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time today spending with us. If they want to learn more about your book or how to get it, where can they go?
Yeah,
24/7
it's
mindset.
Amazon. We just hit super blessed. Book launched last week. It's already been number one on Amazon, number one on Barnes and Noble. We
Wow.
found yesterday that it became number one on the Wall Street Journal. So
Awesome.
super excited about that. But if you get us Amazon, if you're wanting the audiobook, you'll need to go to Apple and you can download from there, or you can just buy the book from Amazon.
Is there a book tour in your future?
um, I've learned never to say no. I think right now my biggest focus is getting a solid foundation for a
Yeah.
24/7 mindset. Then we can expand that. 24/7 mindset's built as a progressional book. And the progressional book is built on an academy, which is 24/7 Mindset Academy, and that helps professionals really be able to um, helps professionals be able to implement what they learn from the book. And I say this many times: I have no interest in someone buying my book thinking I'm a cool guy. I have 1,000% interest in someone buying my book and like, man, if that Yahoo can do it, so can I. So my biggest focus is how do I help people implement what they learn.
And did you come up with the title or somebody else?
I did.
It's a great title.
Thank you. Thank you. If you look at, when you take 20 weeks of vacation a year, there's only really 7 months left in the year.
Yeah.
And we golf 3, 4 times a week. So there's really only 20, 25 hours a week to work. So when I looked at that, I'm like, okay, so if I'm gone for, 20 weeks a year and I golf 3, 4 times a week, what's left. It came out to 24 hours a week, 7 months a year.
Awesome. Thanks again for your time, guys. Grab the book, 24/7 Mindset. Thanks, Wally.
You bet, bud. Let me know if anything else.
Will do.
All right. Thank you.